Right, all right. Thank you very much for sticking with us right here on A Look at Business. My name is Simba Elijah Kiage. Just as teased for this particular conversation, I want to throw you into a conversation I had sometime last year. And this was the title to that interview, The First Electric Mobility Black-Owned Business in Africa. We spoke about it, and I introduced you to a company called Agilitee Africa, who were essentially the first African-born company that was talking about e-mobility in Africa. So the first black-owned business that was essentially going to open a chapter for Africa into e-mobility business. But that was not the biggest news about that particular interview that I did back then. The biggest news is that they had plans to come into the country. I'm talking about a term that we teased during that interview, which was essentially Agilitee East Africa. So the plans were that by February 2023, we're going to see that particular entry into the country. So this evening, I want us to go back to that particular conversation, but not like that, because we do have Dr. Lamba with us right here on this particular episode, just to talk about exactly what Agilitee Africa has been doing since we had that conversation, and where Agilitee East Africa is essentially. Let me introduce this conversation like this just before I bring in Dr. Lamba into this conversation. Here's the thing. If indeed we're going to talk about introducing e-mobility or fast-tracking e-mobility in Africa, then that time is now. Because historically, you have to go back and look about Asia, China, and India as one of those areas where mobilization or e-mobility was going to be a key factor in terms of their transport. But Kenya now, and Africa essentially, has become that frontier because that market is heavily a second-hand consumer market. If we're going to chart a way into clean energy and e-mobility as well, then it is time for us to talk about fast-tracking it. All right, let me introduce the man of the moment then to the conversation. Dr. Lamba, let me take time to welcome you to the show. How are you doing, and how is South Africa?
Thank you so much for having me again, Simba. I'm actually happy that it's you again I'm having here today. South Africa is very good. We still sliding through problems of energy crisis, that we are on level 6, schedule 6 of load shedding in South Africa. Most of the parts of the country don't have electricity, but the government is managing it.
Yes. Pretty much. Such a good way then to get into this particular conversation. Dr. Lamba, I said I'm going to talk to you again in a 2023. Here is 2023. We did tease this particular timeline to the time that Agilitee Africa was going to essentially introduce itself as Agilitee East Africa in the country. Can't we talk about that conversation? Where are we in as far as Agilitee East Africa is concerned, Dr. Lamba?
I'm very excited because we have done more than just enter the market now. We've even set up a board of directors for East Africa, chaired by Mr. Fred Muteti, who's based out of Nairobi. And we've also appointed a new CEO who's going to be heading our operations effectively from the 1st of May, 2023, which is in 2 weeks' time from now. Her name is Elizabeth Nasaka, who is now the new CEO. It doesn't end there. We've already also got a deal with one of the shopping centers in Kenya, in Nairobi. It's called the Garden City Mall, where we are opening our first store of Agilitee on the 29th of this month in Nairobi, Kenya. So Agilitee has finally entered the market in Kenya.
Pretty much. Good news then for any other person listening to you talk about Agilitee then. Are we going to see it called Agilitee Africa or Agilitee East Africa? Because from what I hear now, you have essentially new leaders who are going to be heading this particular branch in the country.
Yes, okay, and I like this question, Simba, a lot. That's very good because we've had this problem on many interviews we've had in Kenya
Yes.
where there's no separation of the entities. First and foremost, we have Agilitee Limited, which is a public company that is busy doing an IPO on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange in South Africa as we speak. That is our global company. It's chaired by a wonderful woman called Laurie Bishop, who is based in the United States. And it's also vice chaired by a guy called Reynard. He's also Reynard French. Is also based in Texas in the US. And then as the CEO, I'm based here. And one of the beautiful things also on that level, the global operations, we also have a Kenyan there. Her name is Justine, who's a member of the board, and she chairs the African board as well. Her name is Justine. She's currently based in Canada, but she's from Kenya as well. So that's the parent, the Global Agilitee, which is the public company. And then we have Agilitee Africa, which is chaired by Justine. And then we also have Agilitee East Africa, which is now chaired by Mr. Fred Muteti.
Yes.
So that's how the layers operate.
Pretty much. All right, let's address that particular announcement then that is for May, which is essentially just 2 weeks from now, that we're going to see some of the products for Agilitee then enter the Kenyan market. Dr. Lamba, what are we bound to see as for May? What are these headline products that we're going to see in the Kenyan market?
The first products you're going to be seeing is our scooters. And I think by the grace of God, for some reason, we releasing the delivery scooters first to come into the Kenyan market at a time where we are launching as Agilitee the first three-wheeler scooter, delivery three-wheeler scooter. In the next 2 weeks, we're also launching that scooter. It's got the longest range the longest range of 200 kilometers per charge. And the first scooter in Africa, a three-wheeler, the first electric scooter to have 200 kilometers range and an 80 kilometers per hour speed. So fortunate enough, we are launching this one first in Kenya. So it will be one of the things that Kenyans should be ready for. We are also introducing our artificial intelligence TVs and other AI products. If you would remember, Simba, outside the mobility, the e-mobility platform, we also have green tech and AI products to a total of about 200 products that we are introducing to the market, including laptops and so forth.
Pretty much. Dr. Lamba, I want to point you out to a report here by Amend and FIA Foundation that is essentially talking about what your entrance to the market is also headlining that. This is what they're saying, that motorcycle usage in Africa has increased from less than 5 million in 2010 to an estimated 27 million in 2022. And this is what they're saying, because of Africa's entrepreneurial spirit, 80% of the continent's motorcycles are used for commercial purposes such as taxis and delivery services. Is that what essentially informed your entrance into the African market, that we're going to start somewhere, then it's got to be on electric scooters, Dr. Lamba?
What really pushed us as Agilitee to start from that end was the ability to witness most of these platforms. I'll give you an example in South Africa. Most of these delivery platforms are foreign companies that are not non-African. They've flooded the market. They create a lot of job and business opportunities. So for us, we said we will have to come up with something, because also there are other requirements even to operate under those platforms. Sometimes our people don't meet those to a degree that most of those who are in there, they are working for someone, not to a degree that they are managing their own business and doing deliveries and so forth. For us, it was more of creating business opportunities and supporting it, because if you look at it, we're the first ones to manufacture the product. And then on the 28th, we are launching the first fully electric delivery platform called Imaginate. It will also be available in Kenya.
Yes.
So we're matching the scooters we make with the same platform, creating business opportunities for our people in Africa. That's the end, because we come from here. We understand the strides of our people, and we know what our people need. We know their financial standing. We know what they have and what they don't have. So we've tailored this entry into the market on the basis of the needs of our people, more than it is just supply and demand.
Pretty much. Dr. Lamba, we spoke about this last year as well. When we're talking about how your entry into the market is going to be now, when we're just 2 weeks away from that big launch then of this product in the country. Are we looking at partnerships that are going to address a specific challenge of penetration of e-mobility in Africa, the cost aspect? How are you looking at this particular issue as you enter into the Kenyan market?
I believe without a doubt that there is nothing we can do and achieve without education.
Yes.
It is the most key part on any development of any industry. First and foremost is already we signed up a partnership that will be announced in a few weeks or so. Yes. With a university in South Africa, which is very important first to educate the people. So we signed up this transaction, and we're working on a few in Kenya already, where we will be introducing education on the industry. Yes. In terms of the green revolution. That's the first part. If we put more knowledge of the industry and the products and the solutions that the green revolution represents to our people, then there will be more participation from our people. Number two, the biggest challenge is infrastructure. We have a problem of lack of infrastructure in Africa for electric vehicles, where there's not enough charging stations. So the beauty of Agilitee is that we don't even use charging for scooters. We use swapping facilities, which we're going to be planting out throughout the East Africa region, where yes. You'll be able to come in and swap the battery for free. For us, penetration is easy. We're not charging people to swap the batteries. So you can come with your empty battery, put it in the machine free of charge, and you ride. The only time you spend is whether you're leasing or you're buying. That's the cost you have to face. So the penetration from the Agilitee point of perspective comes from the knowledge that the industry is ripe for investment, not for harvest. A lot of people make the mistake of saying, Simba, they will go in, we're going to make quick money. There's no quick money in the green revolution. You must have enough deep pockets to invest first in the development of infrastructure, making the revolution known by our people to a degree that it has a buy-in. So penetration is not something that we're much worried about. Yes. As far as Kenya is concerned.
Pretty much. Dr. Lamba, I want to look at exactly what I would say pioneer e-mobility companies have done in other economies. They've sort of managed to create this ecosystem that their customers and clients sort of stick within it, and that has helped them grow even in numbers over time. Could you talk to me about an Agilitee ecosystem? How do you envision it to look like, especially in the Kenyan market?
I love this question. That's why I love having interviews with you, because you ask the right questions. I love this question. So to answer the question, Simba, the ecosystem we've developed, like give you an example, right now we're launching our first delivery platform, which is part of the ecosystem of Agilitee. Yes. It's called Imaginate. Yes. And then we have another platform, which is called Green 8 Mile, which is the first e-hailing platform. It's not just for, it's even for cars, like the same as Uber, Bolt in South Africa that we have here. I think you do have also that in Kenya. Yeah. So these are all components that lead to the ecosystem of Agilitee, where we're building this up. We're building up this ecosystem on the basis of what Africa needs, not what Africa gets to be fed. We've had a bad problem in the past where Africans are only handed over something that works well in America or in another part of the world, but when you bring it to us, it's not what we're looking for, but we embrace and run with it. I'll give you an example. In Africa, if you don't have an iPhone, it's not a train smash. You can use your Samsung, you can use your Android phone, and no one, because here we need a phone that works. But when you go to another part of the world, if you go to America, if you don't have an iPhone, you for some reason you're not existing. So for Americans, iPhone is important, or the Western part of the world, it's a necessity. But for us, it's not a necessity. So to tailor the kind of an ecosystem that's for our people, it has to be very inclusive, not from the point of consumer end, but from the point of inclusion in the capital formation of the system that you're building. That if we're building this ecosystem, now we've got this layer for charging, which is free of charge. So we don't make money from charging, but it helps us with the expedition of adoption of electric vehicles in Africa. Then you look at it, how do people benefit from this? So those who are using our scooters, that's part of the ecosystem. Those who are using our scooters don't have to worry about spending money on charging. So they're not saving all the money from petrol and then coming to have another cost here. So it's free to charge. You swap batteries for free. That's part of the ecosystem. And then we've got the delivery platform, which is called Imaginate. And then we've got the e-hailing platform, which is called Green 8 Mile. And then we've got the car rental company called Green Car Rental. So we're building this ecosystem, all including in our minds how people can benefit, because we operate through a franchising model as we build this to allow people to make money and help us with the adoption of electric vehicles in Africa.
Pretty much. The conversation that we opened this show with Dr. Lamba is you talking about the energy crisis, if you may allow me to call it right now, in South Africa. And even as you are planning this launch right here in the country, coming at a time when the Kenya Power and Lighting Company, through the Energy Authority, that is APRA, has announced an increase in power costs in the country exponentially, limits up to 63%. Would you talk to me about that? What lessons have you drawn from South Africa in terms of the energy crisis that the country has experienced over a couple of months right now? And is that a lesson to how governments in Africa need to operate or not operate, even if they're going to support e-mobility business?
If I were to share with you, thank you so much for this question, Simba. If I were to share with you, right now there are businesses that have suffered in South Africa and shut down permanently because of power outages.
Yes.
We've also recently had an increase of electricity costs by the energy regulator in South Africa called NESA recently. So you look at that, it's not something that is probably just, I think it's affecting Africa as a continent. With the increasing prices of electricity that are now beginning to skyrocket in the similar manner as the petrol prices, there needs to be an alternative, which is why we build our systems on the basis of solar energy, where we ensure that we don't rely on the greed of the government. Instead, we build a system that also supports the government, because if there's lesser consumption of electricity, then there is going to be sustainable generation of electricity. We have that crisis in South Africa right now where we don't have electricity because machines are failing at the same time. They are old. At the same time, the capacity to generate more is not there. Now we have to be without electricity. So this is a crisis that you go to Zimbabwe, you find everywhere. So our solution to this is going green, Simba. Yes. Going green. Yes. We've built, I'll give you an example, our charging machine for cars. It charges any car, it doesn't matter. It's a supercharger. It charges a car like a Tesla for in less than 10 minutes, a Tesla would be fully charged. The smaller cars like Jaguar, BMW, you're looking at 3.5 minutes to 7 minutes, it's fully charged. That one even has a system that saves energy from the sun. It generates, stores energy from the sun, and then it supplies, it transmits the energy that is being generated once the storage is full. to a degree that we store enough energy that even if the weather is not favorable for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, we can store enough to supply energy to cars. So that's the only way to do this. If you're going to be relying on the same, because at the same time, we can't say we're going green when we're still using electricity generated from coal. That's hypocrisy.
Pretty much. Talk to you about this as well. It's something that we mentioned last year when we spoke about this. The high upfront costs for introducing your business, Dr. Lamba, in an economy like Kenya's economy is also a big challenge to the development of your business. Let me talk to you about South Africa. Have you made headway in addressing just the upfront costs when you're trying to introduce these devices in Africa? And how are you going to look into that issue when you come into the country? Because that, for majority of e-mobility companies, is still a big challenge.
This question is very good because the biggest issue on the cost, and it's unfortunate, it's something that we cannot run away from, Simba.
Yes.
But the most beautiful thing is that if you are an African entrepreneur and you create solutions for Africans,
yes,
it means you are standing right where the people you are creating the solutions for are actually standing too. This is the beautiful thing. I remember we had a discussion with Mr. Muteti and Mrs. Nasaga recently on this topic, that one of the most important things that we are doing in Kenya is that you don't have to come and buy cash our vehicles, to a degree that in South Africa, we do the same, where you can be able to lease, to rent, or we finance you even in-house, where you are able to buy it without paying anything that is going to be buying cash, because the idea is providing solutions for our people. So when you look at costs, you would understand in order to apply this kind of model, you must have deep pockets for investment, which is why I would advise anyone who wants to enter the industry and be sustainable. How you carry the people you want to serve, yes, will matter long term. So to answer your question is, we have a solution for this because we don't sell cash our products to everyone. We've got means for everyone to cover, to make sure that they are able to buy in. At the same time, we've got the resources, financial resources, to be able to supply the market. Yes, it's a long-term investment and the costs are high. We manage in between how to ensure that we don't run at loss. And one of the things that has allowed us to do that, Simba, yes, is the fact that we are sitting on zero debt on balance sheet. So we don't have debt as a company. We don't borrow money anywhere. We work with the money we have. This has helped us to a degree that we'll be paying dividends for the first time in 2023.
Pretty much. Which is what I wanted you to mention on quickly then, about your performance of Agilitee Africa. Would you just 45 seconds of you, because I would just want us to handle the last question in just a minute's time as well, Dr. Lamba. Could you talk to me about your outlook for 2023?
Yeah, I believe that in 2023, much has to do with education. We're roping in a few universities, yes, where we are building new courses in the green revolution, artificial intelligence, whereas the universities now will be providing the theoretical, and on the other end, agility engineers will provide the practical in our plants. Even the same is going to be happening in Kenya, and also the turbocharging of our presence in every part of the continent where we are. So one of the greatest things we're looking forward to is the listing of the Agilitee on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, where our shares will finally trade and allow our people to be empowered, as we have donated over 10% of the business to our people so that they can rise with our rise.
Pretty much. Now, let's therefore finally, Dr. Mandla Lamba, talk to the Kenyan customer who's wondering, what is going to happen after that launch? Could you tell me some of the activities that you have planned for the Kenyan market immediately after that launch of the products in the country?
Okay, thank you so much. One of the most important things is for Kenyans to know, even the store that we are opening in Kenya, we're not going to manage the store. we're opening it as a franchise. So any Kenyan can buy that store, and we supply, and we're the first people to come up with a franchise model that provides consignment stock. So usually when you buy a franchise, you'll be told to pay for stock. You don't pay for stock with Agilitee. We give you stock worth $3 million in each store. We supply you. When it's finished, we give you more. So Kenya should start lining up themselves to take up these franchises of Agilitee and also participating in the ownership of what we are doing. And number two, we are also opening doors to a lot of products where we will announce a product launch of all our products. Besides the store opening and the launch of the store, we will also be doing in a conference center in Nairobi where we launch our products. We will send out invitations, and I look forward to seeing you as well, Simba, not just at the store on the 29th. I look forward to seeing you also at that launch.
Guess what? I will be there, Dr. Lamba. In fact, as the entire Lookup business, that's something that we follow close to our heart. So we shall be there. I do promise you we shall be there. Dr. Lamba, again, thank you very much for taking your time. By the way, I would want to speak to you again once we then go through that official launch in, 2 weeks to come, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going to be 2 weeks to come. I'll definitely come to your studio.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for taking your time. Now you do know we shall be bringing you that particular event right here on our Lookup business. We shall be meeting him on the ground, and then later on, I'll bring him right in the studio so we can actually get to talk about exactly what Agilitee Now East Africa would be essentially doing right here at your back door. Thank you very much for taking your time, Dr. Lamba. Taking back to the time that he joined us right here on Lookup Business at Lookup TV across all your social media platforms. Want to speak to me at Kiage Simba. Good night, and thank you very much for watching.